We are used to thinking that aliens visit Earth in transit, but what if extraterrestrial life could actually feel quite at home on our planet? Most likely, aliens could indeed be here, just keeping their presence a secret. You're on Top Facts channel, and today we'll reveal a few secrets about individuals who claim to be aliens from space or have communicated with extraterrestrial beings. Pharaoh Aonan is perhaps one of the most enigmatic rulers of ancient Egypt. His statues have long fascinated historians with their strange features, and Akhenaten's appearance is undoubtedly intriguing. Androgynous traits, including wide hips, an elongated head, almond-shaped eyes, and a prominent chin, noticeably contrast with traditional depictions of pharaohs in ancient Egyptian art. This significant departure from canonical norms has led to speculation. Was the pharaoh truly human? It seems unlikely that his unconventional statues were merely artistic interpretations or simply an emphasis on extraordinary features. Some theories even suggest that Akhenaten's unusual appearance hints at his connection with extraterrestrials. After all, ancient Egypt itself is a civilization that clearly, for a long time, seemed linked to life beyond Earth, as its astronomical knowledge and building technologies, mastered thousands of years before other nations, are hard to explain through science or logic. Here's another Egyptian pharaoh who might have had connections with aliens and for whom there is material evidence to prove it. Among the treasures found in Tutankhamun's tomb in 1925 by archaeologist Howard Carter was this dagger. It stood out from other weapons because of its unique composition and craftsmanship. The fact is, the metal blade was likely made from an iron meteorite, leading to its nickname, the extraterrestrial dagger. As you know, iron was rare and valuable in the ancient world, even more so than gold. For this reason, the earliest iron items in Egypt were crafted from meteoric metal. The high nickel content in Tutankhamun's dagger is closely linked to meteoritic iron, which differs significantly from earthly iron. Modern scientific methods, including portable X-ray fluorescent spectrometry, have confirmed that the dagger's composition aligns with Martian meteorites found in Egypt. This captivating and unusual story took place in 1936. An American citizen named Dean Lindsay made a rather unusual claim regarding property ownership. What's strange about that, you ask? The property he claimed was not on Earth. Dean wanted to purchase land beyond the planet and even sent a letter to a notary in Pittsburgh, along with his case and funds, to support his claim. The case attracted public attention, and some people even sent him offers to buy his extraterrestrial properties. However, Lindsay's claim was not unique, as other individuals and organizations have staked similar claims over the years. These claims, although provocative, hold no legal status under international law as outlined in the Outer Space Treaty of 1967 and the Moon Treaty of 1979. Yes, outer space has already been divided. These treaties prohibit private ownership of extraterrestrial real estate. Even if it ever becomes legal, honestly, I don't think I'd want such a property. It's too far and expensive to get to. I'd rather have a home in the suburbs. A strange story of a mysterious teleportation took place in Southeast Asia in the 16th century, still stirring the minds of historians and paranormal enthusiasts today. The story became known only centuries later, so no physical evidence exists, only belief or doubt. Gil Perez, a Spanish soldier serving in the Civil Guard in the Philippines, was on duty at the palace of the Governor-General in Manila, the country's capital. But on a fateful day in October 1593, Governor Gomez Perez Dasmariñas was killed by Chinese pirates. The soldier, who had served diligently for 20 years, suddenly appeared in Plaza Meyer in Mexico City, thousands of kilometers away from the island nation the very next day. Imagine everyone's surprise when a soldier from Manila, wearing a Philippine uniform, shows up in another country and reports the terrible news of the governor's assassination, a report that had not yet reached Mexico City. Initially, he was taken into custody on suspicion of desertion and involvement in supernatural crimes. His incredible journey only gained credibility months later when a Spanish galleon arrived from the Philippines in Mexico, confirming his account of the governor's murder. Furthermore, a witness confirmed that he had seen Perez at the palace on the day of the murder. Authorities were baffled by the impossibility of this sudden relocation, but after the evidence was presented, they were forced to release him and send him back to Manila. The mystery of Gil Perez's appearance in Mexico remains unsolved. Many theories exist, including alien abduction. Some speculate about interdimensional portals, especially given the cultures of these countries, where the paranormal nearly accompanies everyday life. Although historians find it difficult to verify the authenticity of Perez's story. The first written reports of it appeared in 1698 in a report by Gaspar de San Agustin, who attributed Perez's relocation to witchcraft. Later, Dr. Antonio de Morga briefly mentioned the story in his historical works on the Philippines, noting the remarkable coincidence of news about the governor's death reaching Mexico that very day. Gil Perez's journey remains one of the most discussed legends among the fantastic events of the past. A Russian boy named Boris Kiprianovich claims to remember his past life, which he supposedly spent on Mars. Born on January 11, 1996, he immediately caught his parents' attention with his unusual abilities. He could speak words at 4 months and full sentences by 8 months. At 2 years old, he started drawing, and most of his subjects were cosmic landscapes. He also showed an inclination toward astronomy, and by age 7, Boris was telling detailed stories about life on Mars. These stories were so convincing that they attracted the attention of a professor visiting Boris's parents. A sensational article appeared in the Russian newspaper Pravda, and at 11, Boris gave an extensive interview in which he described civilizations on Mars and how they were destroyed by nuclear war. He claimed that he had been reborn on Earth with a mission to help prevent a similar fate. He also mentioned other indigo children like himself, whom he described as Martians born on Earth. Interestingly, he made a mysterious prediction about the Sphinx in Egypt. Human life will change when the Sphinx opens. It has an opening mechanism somewhere behind its ear, though I don't remember exactly where. Although he now lives an ordinary life at the age of 28 without intense public scrutiny, various theories about his current activities continue to occasionally surface in comments. Whether or not he was a boy with a vivid imagination, his story made a deep impression on UFO enthusiasts, and many continued to believe that Boris was a true Martian. What do you think? Could a young boy with such an imaginative mind be telling tall tales confirmed by accurate astronomical knowledge? If people believe in mere tales, then paranormal abilities require no proof. But the question remains whether they have any connection to extraterrestrial civilizations. A Soviet woman named Nina Kulagina became famous for her psychic abilities. She claimed to possess telekinesis and psychokinesis. Her abilities were studied in various research institutes for over 20 years. Born in 1926, she joined a tank regiment in the Red Army at age 14 during World War II. After the war, she became a housewife, but attracted international attention in the 1960s. Silent black and white films recorded for Soviet authorities in laboratory conditions showed her moving objects from a distance. This stirred excitement among researchers of paranormal abilities worldwide, and many viewed her as an alien. Some suspected that her tricks involved magnets and threads. As they say, seeing is believing. Have you ever met people with such abilities? Write to us about it. Let's move on to cases of alien abductions as recounted by the alleged victims. Betty and Barney Hill, a married couple from Portsmouth, New Hampshire, experienced an event that became the most famous story of alien abduction. On the night of September 19, 1961, they were driving home from a honeymoon in Montreal and Niagara Falls. As they crossed the White Mountains of New Hampshire, they saw a mysterious object with flashing lights in the sky. This encounter set off a series of events that changed their lives forever. Betty, with binoculars, observed what appeared to be a rotating object in the air. Barney, a pragmatic person, was initially skeptical, but he too was shocked by the sight of a large, flat object hovering over the treetops. He cautiously exited the car, and when he approached the object, he saw gray figures behind windows. In panic, Barney returned to the car, and as they drove away, they soon heard rhythmic beeps in the car. They had driven 35 miles down the road with a 2-hour memory gap. At home, they discovered unexplained damage to the car and clothing, and both felt unusual impulses in their bodies. Seeking to understand what happened, they consulted a psychotherapist and underwent hypnosis, which brought up memories. The couple reported that they had been taken aboard a spaceship, separated and subjected to physical experiments. The beings they described as aliens had gray skin, wore uniforms, and conducted various tests on them, including taking samples of hair, nails, and skin scrapings. The story of the Hills attracted public attention after it was reported in newspapers in 1965. To this day, it remains one of the most compelling accounts of alien abduction, despite numerous attempts to debunk it. A completely different story happened to a man named Peter Faust. In 1988, a young man claimed that he had been abducted by aliens when he was about 8 years old. Peter described the abductors as beings with large pear-shaped heads and almond-shaped eyes, and he felt a strange familiarity with them, as if they were old acquaintances. They also responded as though they had met him before. Seeking an explanation, he consulted a psychiatrist named Johnny Mack. Mack believed that the emotional intensity of the memories suggested they were more than just the influence of dreams. Through relaxation methods and regression therapy, Peter recalled more details of the abduction. He described how he was physically lifted and transported to a spaceship, then taken to a larger ship where the aliens showed him movies and photographs. He also underwent physical experiments that included taking sperm samples. Although Peter was initially skeptical about his memories and had little interest in UFOs, his experiences with others who had similar encounters convinced him of the consistency among the accounts of different, independent abductees. This experience remains unverified, and the scientific community does not take people like Peter seriously. But before judging, you can leave your comments below. On the evening of October 11, 1973, a man named Calvin Parker, along with his friend Charles Hickson, experienced an event that deeply changed their lives. The friends claimed they were abducted by aliens while fishing near Pascagoula, Mississippi. After their claims, Parker and Hickson found themselves in the center of a media storm in the Jackson County Sheriff's Department, where they were interrogated separately and then left alone in a room. The men didn't realize their private conversation was also being recorded, and they once again discussed the experience in detail. They were genuinely scared, which played a key role in convincing authorities and others of the truthfulness of their accounts. The case attracted the attention of well-known UFO incident investigators, including ufologist and astronomer Joseph Allen Hynek. Experts arrived in Pascagoula to interview and hypnotize the witnesses. Even after polygraph tests, voice stress tests, and several hypnosis sessions, many remained skeptical of Parker and Hickson's story. But the incident had a significant impact on Parker's life. He lost his job, faced constant media attention, and even changed his name to stop being disturbed. In November 1975, Travis Walton, a logger from Arizona, disappeared while working with his crew in the Apache National Forests. His team claimed to have seen a hovering UFO, and a beam of light from the craft hit Walton, after which he disappeared. 5 days later, Walton returned with a strange story of being aboard an alien spaceship. The incident quickly became sensational and attracted enormous media attention. Walton's account included details of being examined by human-like alien beings. He found himself in a room filled with stars, similar to a planetarium, initially believing that nothing good awaited him. According to his descriptions, the beings looked like typical Hollywood representations of aliens, and their actions were not hostile. However, over time, he interpreted these events as a rescue operation, suggesting that the beings tried to heal him from some injury. Walton's disappearance led to a police investigation, during which the logging crew passed polygraph tests. The results indicated that they were telling the truth, that none of them harmed Walton, but questions and doubts remained. Walton himself, upon returning, was met with skepticism and mistrust, which greatly disappointed him. He believes that the truth of his story is supported by numerous other reports, some even from official sources. Elizabeth Clara was born in South Africa in 1956. She claimed to have encountered extraterrestrial beings and said she would never forget the experience. Clara recounted seeing a spacecraft on her family's farm, describing it as a disc-shaped object that hovered and moved silently. She even claimed to have taken photographs of it. 2 years after her first sighting, she reported another meeting, this time with an alien named Aeon on a high plateau in the Drakensberg Mountains. Clara said that their relationship was not merely friendly, it led to the conception of a child. But that wasn't all. She also claimed that in 1959 she was transported to Aeon's home planet, called Meton, in the Alpha Centauri star system. Clara described a utopian paradise without cities or skyscrapers, where food, water, and all essentials were abundant, and there was no monetary system. She even claimed to have given birth to a son named Aying, but was forced to return to Earth due to health issues, as the vibrations of the alien planet were supposedly detrimental to her. Some ufologists believed her statements and photographs were genuine, though many, especially psychiatrists and scientists, dismissed her stories. Many viewed her as a highly imaginative person with a knack for storytelling. Perhaps she could have used her imagination to write a captivating science fiction novel. What do you think? A man named Billy Meyer, born on February 3, 1937 in Switzerland, became world famous for his claims of contact with extraterrestrial beings. He described his first encounter with them at the age of 5, when he allegedly met an elderly entity named Spat, who communicated with him telepathically and supposedly took him aboard a metallic pear-shaped spacecraft. These childhood experiences marked the beginning of his life's work. Meyer dedicated his life to convincing others of the reality of these encounters. Among the aliens he claimed to have interacted with was a female entity named Dasset, who reportedly mentored him for over a decade, with experiences that went beyond mere meetings and conversations. Meyer also claimed that he was taken back in time to witness key historical events. Perhaps these fantastic journeys helped Meyer, who was a target of bullying in his youth, and sought to isolate himself from society to create an alternative reality for himself. He even documented his experiences in a book, though whether his stories are true or not is another matter entirely. A former British Labour Party councilman was one of the last types of people from whom you would expect a claim of alien encounters, right? However, he openly reported various encounters, mentioning Nordic aliens and reptilians. Since childhood, he believed that his true mother was a 3-meter-tall alien with 8 fingers, and even described his first encounter with her when he was only 6 months old. According to Parks, this extraterrestrial entity communicated with him telepathically, saying that she was his more important mother. Parks's experiences didn't stop there. He claimed to have had numerous contacts with aliens throughout his life. At the age of 11, he was supposedly taken aboard an alien spaceship, and in one of his most startling claims, he said he became the father of an alien being's child. These accounts are presented in various interviews and documentaries, including the Mind Anomaly Project, Alien Abduction Contact, and The Hotline. Parks insists that such experiences did not hinder his political career, as his main focus always remained on local issues. Fixing leaky roofs and potholes was prioritized over alien encounters. Interestingly, Parks is not the only politician who believes in aliens. Paul Hellyer, Canada's former Minister of Defense in the 1960s, also stated that aliens live among humans and that different alien species have been visiting Earth for thousands of years with various objectives. Perhaps it's a part of political PR, but I would question the mental stability of any government official who told me something like this. The story of Alex Collier is considered one of the most intriguing and controversial in UFO circles. The former American soldier claimed to have actively interacted with extraterrestrial beings from the Andromeda Galaxy. His experiences with the Andromedans formed the basis for his discussions and writings on the subject. Collier's first encounter with extraterrestrials supposedly occurred in 1964 when he was still a child, though he only decided to share it publicly many years later in 1989. According to Collier, He spent 92 days on board an Andromedan mothership, and the period he was absent on Earth lasted only 18 minutes. During his time on the spaceship, Collier described interactions with beings of various appearances, including a very old, short individual and a young, tall person with blue skin. He also detailed advanced technologies on the ship, which he claimed was 900 meters long and had 24 levels, including an extensive park area that could create an artificial sunrise using holography. Inside the ship, everything operated under different physical laws, making the space appear larger than it seemed from the outside. Mind-blowing, isn't it? On December 13, 1973, a Frenchman named Claude Vorilhon claimed to have met an alien and was invited aboard a spaceship. Thus began the story of a new religious movement. Since Vorilhon called himself Rael, the movement became known as Raelism. The life story of its leader looks like a mix of science fiction and religious prophecy. Before leading the community, Vorilhon was a race car driver and journalist, writing about sports cars. His life took a dramatic turn in 1973 when he reported an encounter with extraterrestrial beings. These beings, whom he called Elohim, were advanced scientists from another planet who, he claimed, created all life on Earth through DNA manipulation about 25,000 years ago. This fascinating account diverges from traditional religious texts, proposing a technological rather than divine origin of humanity. In Rael's interpretation, biblical events such as the Garden of Eden and Noah's Ark are recast as alien scientific experiments. Rael claimed that the Elohim appointed him as their emissary on Earth to spread messages and prepare for their possible return. Among the aliens' plans was the construction of an extraterrestrial embassy on neutral territory. His second book, The Aliens Took Me to Their Planet, provided a detailed description of his experiences, including his supposed personal encounters with significant religious figures such as Buddha, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad. The Raelian movement believes that aliens are responsible for creating all life on Earth. Marshall Herff Applewhite Jr., also known as Bodu, Guinea, Tiddly, and Nincom, is known in America as a religious propagandist and leader of the UFO movement, Heaven's Gate. He was born in 1931 in Texas and demonstrated a remarkable talent for public speaking from a young age. Applewhite moved to New York in an unsuccessful attempt to start a professional singing career, then taught at the University of Alabama, and later led the music department at a college in Houston. His life took a dramatic turn in 1972 when he met a nurse named Bonnie Nettles. Strangely, despite her profession, Nettles was interested in theosophy and biblical prophecy. Their encounter proved decisive, as Nettles convinced Applewhite that they were both prophets mentioned in the Book of Revelation. This belief set them on a journey that eventually led to the creation of the destructive Heaven's Gate cult. The leaders declared themselves divine messengers with a sacred mission. They began traveling across the country, preaching their beliefs and gradually attracting a group of followers. According to their teachings, Earth was soon to be destroyed, and those who wished to be saved with them had to leave the planet to reach a higher spiritual level. The turning point came with the news of the Hale-Bopp comet, set to appear over California in 1997. Applewhite saw this as a sign of Earth's last days and urged his community to use their last chance to escape. Members of the community committed mass suicide, but this chilling story perhaps illustrates how infectious one person's delusion or outright madness can be.
This is the Voix CE of Astron. I am an authorized representative of the intergalactic mission, and I have a message for planet Earth. We are entering the age of Aquarius, and there are many things that humans must do. All your weapons of evil must be destroyed. You have little time to learn to live together in peace. You must live in peace, or leave the galaxy.
This message broke into British television airwaves in 1977 during a news program. It interrupted the Southern TV channel broadcast, leaving thousands of viewers bewildered and even panic-stricken. A hacker seized the airwaves for 6 minutes, claiming to represent the Intergalactic Association of Astron. Astron is not one individual, but rather an entity or group of entities that allegedly communicate with humans through various channels. For example, George Van Tassel, an American contactee, ufologist, and writer, was one of the first to report receiving a message from the Astron group in 1952. Initially, these messages contained warnings about scientific progress. However, as the movement grew, Astron's teachings began to include more spiritual guidance. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, messages were transmitted periodically, promising the physical arrival of extraterrestrial ships to assist humanity. However, since the predictions did not materialize, the teachings shifted toward transformation and spiritual evolution. Even then, someone attempted to implant the notion of a bleak fate for humanity into the collective consciousness. Do you think this was human handiwork, or was an extraterrestrial intelligence genuinely concerned about the state of affairs on Earth? George Adamsky was born in Poland in 1891, and soon his family emigrated to the United States. Later, he became one of the most controversial figures in history. In the 1950s, he claimed to have traveled into space on a UFO, specifically on a large cigar-shaped mothership. Adamsky was passionate about astronomy and Eastern philosophy, and in his testimonies about his interplanetary journey, he mentioned observing meteor showers and receiving profound knowledge from an ancient master. His most famous encounter took place in 1952 in the Colorado desert, where he allegedly met a being from Venus named Orthon. Adamsky described Orthon as a humanoid with long blonde hair and tanned skin, who communicated with him through telepathy and hand gestures. Adamsky also wrote several books discussing his supposed adventures with beings from Venus, Mars, and Saturn. He claimed that other civilizations were concerned about humanity's self-destruction, particularly through nuclear weapons. Despite the popularity of his statements, many were skeptical of Adamsky. Critics pointed out inconsistencies and implausibilities in his stories and noted that actual conditions on Venus and other planets contradict Adamsky's descriptions. His UFO photographs were also disputed by experts, who suggested that everyday household items were used in the images. Despite the doubts, George Adamsky remains a prominent and influential figure in the field of ufology. You decide what to believe in, although I agree that extraterrestrials are likely out there and probably see no reason to fully reveal themselves. And that's how our episode turned out. If you enjoyed it and would like to see the next part or something similar, let us know in the comments and give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel, and very soon we'll release a new episode on another fascinating topic.